what's up? Jasmine, 1/3 of Pretty Brown and Nerdy here, and today we're gonna talk about something spooky. It's Halloween, y'all, and I'm here to talk about Stranger Things Season 2. Now, just a little disclaimer before we start this review, because I know it might come up sometime in the review, so we're just gonna say this as a warning. Spoiler alert, guys! So if you do not want to be possibly spoiled on Season 2 of Stranger Things, if you have not watched it yet, go ahead and back out of this video. But if you've already binge watched the whole season of Stranger Things in a day like me, because I have no life, then go ahead and continue watching. So I have to say, guys, first off, I am pleasantly surprised with this season. I feel like this season definitely did top season 1. Season 1 started off a little slow for me, and you know, I'm not gonna lie, it did take me some time to get into season 1 of Stranger Things. I had to watch it about maybe 3 times before I really got into it, but this season I was just drawn in completely from the beginning. So we start off kind of catching up on things of what's happened in this past year. It's a time skip. It's been about a year since the events that took place with Eleven and Will getting lost in the Upside Down, and everyone is pretty much sort of back into the swing of things. Joyce, man, Joyce got her a man. He's a little corny, but Bob's a nice guy. I like Bob. Steve and Nancy are somehow still together. But Steve, you know, Steve got a little glow up. Steve, man, I have to say, you know, I hate to say it, but Steve was a really likable character this season. You know, he's getting it together, trying to do better in school. He done ditched those sorry friends he had. Jonathan, he's still a little weird, but I like Jonathan. And all the kids are pretty much just getting back into the swing of things. You see them collecting a bunch of coins and stuff, and lo and behold, they're going to the arcade. Now, seeing all the retro arcade games just literally brought me back, and it was so entertaining to see them literally scrounging for like pennies and quarters trying to find money to play games. So that was really cute to me. But you know, despite things seeming like they're back to normal, something is not quite right. Will, obviously, you know, he's pretty messed up from what happened. Only is he still having some, you know, post-traumatic stress about the events that took place in the Upside Down. Also, he's seeing weird visions. The town of Hawkins, Indiana is not back to normal like we think it is. It seems like some mysterious virus, some mysterious plague is coming about the city, and the trees and vegetables and farmland, everything's decaying. So it's like, what in the world is going on? And then we go back to Will in the arcade, and he's having weird visions of the Upside Down. It looks like they're not done with him yet. See this big monster we all know as the Shadow Monster or the Thessal Hydra. And I'm like, alright, so we're definitely setting the tone for episode 1. A few new characters have come into the picture, not just Bob, but also, did anybody notice that Bob is Samwise? Lord of the Rings. I totally didn't recognize him at first, but I had to take a second look and I was like, oh snap, Sam! We got a Goonie in the show, like what? I like the fact that, you know, they're bringing on all these familiar faces that, you know, along with Winona Ryder, you know, kind of paved the way for the 80s in film. So that's really awesome to see. Not only do we have Bob as a new character, we have Max, who is the tomboy, cool girl who has come into the scene, along with her stereotypically dressed 80s brother, who we find out is actually not her biological brother, but her stepbrother. Now this dude, first off, I could tell that this guy was gonna be the jerk of the show. He just looks like that stereotypical, like, a-hole jerk that you see in the 80s movies, and I knew that I was just not gonna like his character at all. And honestly, that hairstyle had to go, that earring had to go, like, nah, man's not hot, nah. One thing that stood out to me in particular from the start of this episode was Mike and Lucas arguing about which Ghostbuster they were supposed to be for their little Ghostbusters group for their Halloween costumes at school. This stood out to me because this is every black kid, every black cosplayer's plight when it comes to being in a group cosplay or dressing up in a group with people. How somehow we always get designated to be the black character, even though we might not resonate with or like the black character in particular as our favorite character from, you know, whatever pop culture reference or show, game that we're into or that we're dressing up as. To see like Mike and Lucas going back and forth, and Lucas, you know, being very vocal about how he was absolutely not going to be the Black Ghostbuster, that literally resonated within me, and I was like, I feel you, Lucas. Like, this is every black cosplayer's struggle. I feel you. Can we just give a round of applause for Lucas's sister? That girl throughout the entire show had the best lines. Like, she had me dying. I feel like Erica is literally me in this show. She's just there, just has no idea what is going on, is just literally sitting there side-eyeing people like, bunch of losers, y'all are some nerds. Her lines just killed me. And that little girl, she has so much personality. Can we please bring Erica back for season 3? Like, I'm calling it right now. Can we get Erica back for season 3? On to some highlights for the season. I just have to say, like, the kids really took it up another level with this season. Of course, there were some scenes that were a little melodramatic for me, a little too much, but for the most part, these kids continue to deliver. They continue to completely slay their roles that they're playing. I'm just continuously amazed at what they can do as such young actors. A scene that stood out to me was the scene between Hopper and Eleven. That conflict between those two characters, that was a really intense scene, and I think at that point you could see how Millie Bobby Brown literally she pushed through boundaries of what she can do in a scene, and that whole interaction between the two actors, like, kudos to them. Hopper's character development took a 180 for me. I feel like in season 1, you know, they had really established him as someone who in the beginning didn't really care and was just kind of whatever about what was going on around the town, didn't care for anyone or what was going on outside of himself. And I felt like to see him take a kind of like a 180 in temperament and how, you know, yeah, he really was acting like her papa. I felt like he almost became a villain in a way. And I know they clarify that, you know, later on, that how he really sees Eleven as his own daughter and doesn't want to make the same mistakes that he made. He felt like, you know, he couldn't protect his daughter that passed away, so he really wants to make a difference in the situation with Eleven, and he wants to protect her. But I just felt like, you know, they kind of went too far with him, and it took a lot of the character development that he had in the previous season, and it totally stepped him down a notch in the progression that he had. I understand where it stemmed from, but at the same time, I felt like they could have leveled it down a bit, because he was literally, like, he was being abusive toward Eleven, and she had every right to feel the way that she felt with how he was acting toward her. And I just say, hands down, the best episode this season was episode 7, with 11 and 8 interacting with one another, meeting each other for the first time since they were separated from the Rainbow Room in the lab. Wonderfully written, wonderfully directed and produced. The actors did such an amazing job with that episode. And frankly, I felt like every emotion watching it. I felt happy, sad, I cried, you know, I laughed. It brings about so many different emotions watching that episode, because I feel like that is the turning point for Elle's character. And just to see how different her and 8 are. You know, 8 is very confident in herself. You know, she finds that confidence that she didn't have. She says, you know, she used to be like Elle, meek and hide her powers, but she found herself, she found her powers, and she found purpose. Her purpose is to literally find every person that hurt her or caused some sort of pain to her in the labs and murder them and kill them. She's got like a hit list of some sort. And I understand, you know, that she sees herself as trying to help Elle harness her abilities, harness her pain, and turn it into something better, you know, turn it into something that is her strength. On the other hand, she has toxic tendencies, and she's trying to have Elle become this person that essentially she's not. And just to see that amount of character development and Elle truly finding herself in that episode, wow, like it was real moving. One thing I can appreciate is how they handled the love triangle between Jonathan, Nancy, and Steve. You know, a lot of the character development that Steve had, I feel like he was able to accept that, you know, what he felt for Nancy was not necessarily what she felt for him. And the way that he handled it was very nicely done. I mean, it could have went, you know, a completely different route, but I really like how that was written and how Steve handled the situation. And just like Steve's interactions with Dustin, like, can I just say that Dustin and Lucas are the shining stars of this season? Mike was just kind of like, ugh, to me this season. I mean, I understand that he's going through so many different emotions with, you know, Elle being gone, and you know, he still hasn't quite gotten over it, where it seems like everybody else has kind of moved on. I get that. And Mike was really the support that Will needed when all of this was going on. He was there for him, and you know, he could kind of understand in a way what he was going through and wanted to be that support system for him. So I feel like in that aspect, Mike was really great this season. But I don't know, it was kind of something about him that he just kind of felt like secondary to me. Max, I'm just gonna say I didn't really care for her. She was an okay character, but I feel like for the most part, she was unnecessary. I thought she was gonna have some bigger role, you know, where it would turn out that the reason why her family moved back to Hawkins or something was to find like her brother that was a test experiment or something. But I mean, it would have been interesting to have that sort of plot twist where, you know, she might have been the family member of one of the children who was an experiment and was also searching for someone, you know, kind of like that whole plot twist. I thought she was gonna have more of a presence, but I feel like her character just served as to give Lucas a love interest, honestly, or just to have some other person there to keep, some other new character there to keep it interesting. I feel like she was there as the character to create some sort of tension with Elle, which really bothered me because I know they have this whole concept of, you know, I felt like it was playing into the whole stereotype of there can only be one girl in a group of guy friends. There always has to be like that one exclusive girl that's in the guy group who's like a tomboy or something. And I feel like this whole, you know, conflict that they wrote between her and Elle was completely unnecessary to me. And I know that, I understand that they're kids and, you know, Elle is a kid and she sees, you know, another girl with her crush or someone that she likes, you know, that's gonna bring about those emotions. But Elle, as someone who's never even really experienced that or interacted with people to understand those type of emotions, I just felt like it was kind of random and unnecessary to include, and it didn't make sense for her character. And she reunites with everybody in the last episode, how she just completely glances over Max and just kind of gives her a glare and walks past her, doesn't even acknowledge her. That actually really bothered me because I would have liked to see some, you know, it would have been justified in some way if I would have seen the two characters interact after the fact and they become friends. Who knows, maybe we'll see that in season 3, but I don't really like the way that their relationship was handled with one another because it felt like two girls competing with each other unnecessarily. It created some sort of false love triangle that was unnecessary. Just kind of write their interactions that way. I didn't like it. I could have did without it completely. And not only that, am I the only one that kind of felt like the last episode was a little anticlimactic? I was expecting maybe like, you know, some big reveal of the shadow monster or the Thessal Hydra, and Elle and Will would have to find some way to defeat it, like it would come and start terrorizing the city. I know they had like a few monsters that came that they fought, but honestly I was hoping for like a bigger, you know, reveal at the end, but it was kind of just, you know, Elle just closing a gate. But everything that happened in between the beginning and end was very solid for me. These were just a few of my points that I thought I'd bring up that I liked and that I didn't like about this season. I'm really pumped for season 3. I think this season, you know, I feel like season 1 was mainly an intro into everything and then the climax, but season 2, you know, we've already established, you know, everything regarding the Upside Down and characters, and, you know, granted, of course, some new additive characters for the sake of keeping things interesting. Some we could have done without, but for the most part, a very solid season 2. So now I want to know what y'all's thoughts are. Go ahead and leave a comment below. Did you enjoy Stranger Things 2? What did you like? What did you not like? And of course, as always, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you aren't already subscribed, go ahead and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. And I will see you guys on the next video.